I mean, this album it doesn't try to reinvent the wheel. I don't believe, because there's been accusations of AI. I don't think it's AI. The lyrics are a bit simplistic, but I've heard Megadeth do albums where he's saying he's reading a book on top of riffs, and there's no flow. Whereas this one, I noticed, there's fewer lyrics, but he's focusing more on the delivery of those lyrics, so he can enunciate his voice a little bit more. And actually, speaking of voice, we've heard the criticisms that his voice sucks, that it sounds funny, blah blah blah. Meanwhile, they're wearing an Overkill patch and fucking Exodus and fucking Creator, and I saw a video of a guy saying all this, and it's just it's funny, some of these guys, sure their band's heavier, sure they have all this, hell, dude, if you get the average person, you show them a Death Angel song and an Anthrax song, I guarantee you they're not gonna know the difference. Metalheads for sure will know the difference. I'm talking the average person, that just listens to entry-level metal. They couldn't tell you, one over the other. But if you play them a Megadeth song, they're going to recognize it. And why? Because his voice is distinctive, And another thing about his voice is, it's funny how people who make fun of Dave Mustaine's voice, they couldn't, no one can recreate that voice without sounding stupid.
What? Watch him become a god.
But with him, for some reason, he's the only one who can, do it properly. Or, it's his voice. It's distinctive. It's memorable. It's his band. It's whatever. It's if he sounded better, I wouldn't remember him. But he is a little bit more gruffer on this one. It kind of reminds me of Louis Armstrong, where it's you're damn, this voice kind of sucks, but I can't stop listening to it. But I've heard him worse, and he doesn't sound that bad on this one. I've heard shit about the tone sucking. Maybe they're hearing it on their phone, but when I hear it, it's pretty fucking razor sharp, it's bone dry, something like that. I don't know. That's, it's pretty cut and dry. It's pretty typical. You're not going to recreate the 92 freaking, early 2000s tone, but it's fine. And they've done a lot worse than this, I would say. But I don't know. Do you have any? Do you have what have you heard?
From this album?
Yeah, as far as criticisms that you...
I've actually not heard anything from this album. I've not heard any criticism so far, but
for sure.
I don't know. I haven't went and watched the videos on it or anything yet.
I see.
I just listened to the album. I've listened to it all the way through twice, and I liked Let There Be Shred, and forgot the other song. I told you.
You're right.
Song.
Right.
There's one more. Something about killing. Is that kill in the title?
Born to Kill. I think it was Born to Kill. Made to Kill.
Made to Kill, yeah. I like that. I like Made to Kill, and I like Let There Be Shred. Those stood up most to me. A lot of shredding in both those songs.
Yeah, another thing too that I also heard is that the songs are kind of simplistic, but I think Megadeth has always sort of been known to write songs. I know that sounds really simple, but no, songs matter, not just demonstrations of skill, which they've been known to do, and they have done it. They don't need to keep doing it. Granted, there's enough on this album. There's a lot of variety. Each song sort of represents a certain period of the band. So I think it collectively is kind of all at once. Actually, a criticism I heard too was that the lack of title, that it doesn't have a title, And when I first noticed that, like, because I was under the impression that the album was going to be called like "The End Is Near," because that was like when they first were like teasing it.
Yeah.
That was, that was sort of the title they were using. And when I saw that, I was just kind of like, man, like, it's fitting, but like, I don't know, I didn't like that, And I noticed with a lot of bands, they'll have like a self-titled album, whether it's the beginning of their album or like not always at the end, but like in this case, but sometimes like in a pivotal moment in their career, i.e. Metallica, the Black Album.
Yeah.
When a band drops a self-titled album, that's pretty much their way of, like that's like here we are now, and those albums usually are memorable. Or if a band starts with the beginning with their album being self-titled, that's pretty much, it sets off their career, and in this case, it being the end, when I finally realized that it was going to be a self-titled one, I actually got really excited about that. Because it was like, finally Megadeth get to do a self-titled album.
Yeah.
And I think people kind of lost, with the criticism of it not having a title, I think it kind of takes away from the importance of like, okay, this is Megadeth. Best way is, they have all the cool titles. They don't need another one. So I think the fact that it says Megadeth, I think that's, it's not a con per se. It's just a long overdue it's a long overdue body of work with a title, I'd say.
I'd say it's appropriate.
I just wish they had a song called Megadeth. Yeah. So it would have been like Motorhead, Iron Maiden, how they have, I just wish they had a song called Megadeth in here, that would have been cool.
Yeah, I think it's appropriate for the last album to be self-titled. What would you say is your favorite Megadeth album? I like all the albums.
Yeah. So Far So Good So What, I'd say. That's the one where I think they really found their sound. I know people like say like Rest in Peace and Countdown or Euthanasia or whatever, but the reason why I say So Far So Good So What, I mean, granted the albums before had like this huge demonstration of skill. The jazzy influence that they were going on is really unique for sure, but I think when So Far So Good So What came out, that was when they kind of like, I wouldn't say dialed down, but the riffs got more chunkier. The lyrics, songs became more song oriented. Like In My Darkest Hour, that's to me like he could have made that acoustic, and it would have the same impact. Obviously songs like Mary Jane are excellent examples of. It was like an experimental period, but it seemed like every other album that came out after, with the exception of Rest in Peace, it felt like a continuation of that sound, which is kind of why I think people always gravitate towards Rest in Peace, because it's its own thing, and nothing ever really came close to it, at least like album wise, but everything else sort of is a deviation from what started with So Far So Good, because like nothing's from Peace Sells and before has ever been recreated. I think their sound truly started with So Far So Good So What, and if like go back and hear any album from any period, and the way that they sort of rock, kind of it just kind of references that, at least like in his voice, his delivery, and even some of the riffs for sure sort of kind of resonate with that personally, because there's a lot of political statements. This was kind of the peak MTV era. This is when they had like a film, I guess. They were like in a film during that period. So I would say that one. But another favorite album, actually, I think United Abominations gets a lot of flack, but that was the album that was out when I got into them. Go back and hear that album in 2026 and tell me Dave wasn't trying to tell us something. I'm just saying. He was on to something, but the tone on that one is cool. There's a lot of cool songs. The themes on it are really strong. It's aged pretty well. Same with Endgame. Endgame, I'm not gonna lie, the more I get into that one kind of reminds me more of So Far So Good So Well, which is probably why I like it so much, but But I would say so far, oh yeah, well, look, so far so good, so what? You know, I'm wearing it right here. You know, there you go. So, and any version of that album is good. The remaster remix is good. It surprisingly is actually better than I expected. I bought the vinyl of it recently, and at first I saw his remix. I was like, ah, man, the original's so much better. But then I put it on, and I was like, oh wow, like it's actually like really clean sounding. So out of all the Megadeth reissue vinyls that I've picked up, I noticed that one's actually the best sounding one. And that says a lot, you know.
Yeah.
So I would say, you know, that's a good, that's probably my personal favorite one.
So, how about if you had to pick a least favorite album?
13.
13.
13. I hate 13, dude. It's got some cool songs, but it's the most cheesy fucking album they've ever done. I know people hate on Super Collider and even Risk. Honestly, dude, I'd rather hear Risk 10 times over than fucking 13. The song 13 is really good. The song 13 is actually like, I that should have been a radio hit for sure. But everything else, dude, I just hated the fact that they were like rehashing old songs. And yeah, they're cool, but it just felt like, I don't know, it just was a really out of place piece of work. And this is when David Ellison came back, and I fucking hated it. I dreaded it, you know. And I don't hate Super Collider as much. I know a lot of fans hate it. I actually like that album way more than 13. That should just tell you, that's the one album I fucking just can't stand.
So, what's your overall opinion of this album? Like, would you rank it, this album, would you rank it amongst, or how would you rank this album amongst the older albums? Like, is it top 3, top 5, top 10 of all 17 albums?
Well, nothing's ever going to top the first 4. Or even the first 5, you know. But if we're talking like in like the post 2000s era of Megadeth, this is definitely like in the top 5. I would even argue it's in the top 3, but nothing's gonna be like the, you know, like I said, like in my opinion, this is the album we should have got 15 years ago. This is the continuation of what Endgame was doing. Maybe that has to do with the bass player, James Lomenzo. He was on, I think he was on United Abomination too, if I'm not mistaken. If he was on that one, plus Endgame, plus this. And to me, I think, I don't know why. I've never really paid up too much attention to his playing, but you know, him being on this album really shows. It brings back a presence that I was so familiar with when I first got into Megadeth. Because when I first got into Megadeth, he was the bass player for that. That first concert I ever went to that I mentioned earlier, he was playing bass in that period. And actually, recently, because when he had came back in the band in 2021, or 2022, I don't remember, when he came back, when I had seen that show, because I had seen Megadeth a bunch of times. This happens to be the most recent time that I'd seen him, but you know, it was the first time seeing him in Megadeth since I first saw him in the band all those years ago, and I felt like something came back into the band that had been lacking in those times in between I had seen when I saw them with David Ellison. I don't hate David Ellison. I just think when he came back into Megadeth, something went missing. Something went soft. Like something was just, they weren't like razor sharp anymore. And then when I saw them, there was a certain edge that was there back. And then hearing this album, because he didn't play on The Sick and the Dying and the Dead. Steve DiGiorgio did. But when hearing him on this one, or just knowing that he's in it, it brought back he's basically continuing on where he left off with the last album. His being Endgame, and this to me feels like the sequel to Endgame. It's almost like they took all the mistakes of the last 15 years and they corrected them and they dropped an album, and then this is what it is. So, you know, it's not going to be like in the top. Let's just say it'll be in the top 10 of what they've ever done. I can't say it's gonna top anything that's from the 2000s, but had this came out 15 years ago, it would have been like I would have been